I won't say pride myself, but I feel like Truman Capote is a figure that I, for some reason, have kept coming back to in my life. Not just
Mm.
because people keep playing him, but I feel like, oh, I don't know, there's a certain sophistication there. There's a certain, I mean, his wit and his the way that he talks, his writing is amazing. But I feel like this show really sort of took me by surprise and really embraced sort of the more tragic elements of his life that I was not expecting. And I keep thinking about it. I was telling someone just this morning. They were like, "Who are you talking to?" And I said, "The production designer of Feud." And I've just been sort of thinking about it all day, in a way that I was not expecting. That's not a question. That's just sort of me telling you how much I enjoyed the show. Um,
Excellent.
you have recreated a lot of spaces for some well-known people. I mean, Trumbo, Julia, Halston. Dear God, I love that series so much. I guess I wanted to know from you, is that something you seek out? Is that just coincidence? Do you have like a secret desire to give us these spaces? I guess is that just yeah, coincidence, or do you like doing it?
Well, both. I don't
Yeah.
think it wasn't a game plan that I
Right.
set out for
Sure.
myself. It's like one thing leads to the next, and you reach a point in your career, and I reached a point in mine, and I look back and I thought, oh, I've done a lot of shows about real
Yeah.
people. And I think that I've been lucky enough that all of those shows have been about particularly fascinating characters. And when they have been brought to me, I mean, it's a no-brainer to say yes to them, with the talent that came with the projects. Um, but it is something that I have taken note of, and I do like it. I do enjoy the scavenger hunt, the
Mm.
research, the exercise of bringing back to life a particular moment in time, or researching the details
Mm.
of what a person's life was built from. And it's everything from just like prop details to being able to walk the paces
Mhm.
of, I mean, when I did Julie and Julia, I talked my way, and I don't speak French, but I talked my way into her apartment, um, that
That's
we then recreated, and was on the roof and got a lot of research. And in this
cool.
show, we were able to go into Truman's real apartment in the UN Tower, and for nothing else, to shoot the backings. And I myself have a fascination. I mean, when this show was brought to me, Robbie Bates was an old friend of mine.
Mhm.
I'd done Halston with Ryan. It checked a lot of boxes that I needed to have in terms of where its location was, but certainly um, in my younger years, a friend of mine worked for Ross Bleckner when he bought Truman's Sagaponack cottage right after Jack
Mhm.
Dunphy died. And
Mhm.
so I spent time in that cottage, and was there when it was emptied, and I was there when we found nothing but a corkscrew and a typewriter. And I was at
Mhm.
NYU
Mhm.
studying with Oliver Smith, who owned the Brooklyn Heights townhouse that he lived in on Willow Street.
Mhm.
And so when Oliver passed away, I was able to go into that house and see his studio, but also to just walk. I've been in very specific places that Truman has been in, and so
Mhm.
from the outset, I was fascinated to do this show as well. We were originally supposed to recreate that Sagaponack cottage, and it got cut for budgetary and size reasons
Yeah.
and things, and it really bummed me out. But we did get the opportunity to go into his apartment at the UN, and
Cool.
I mean, the bathroom is unrenovated. I mean, the tile that we recreated is still there in the bathroom, and you kind of have a moment where, all right, I'm in Truman Capote's bathroom.
That's so weird. No, I can't think of an example off the top of my head where I think of, what I am witnessing is like a real place or something that is so iconic like that. I don't know how I would be able to contain myself if I were you, because it's weird. It's like a weird, I've been to New York
It's
a million times, but it just feels like, I don't know, if I was staring at the tile, I feel like I would just like touch it or, or
well,
something.
and I did, and you do.
Yeah.
You do. I mean, I recognized certain veins in the marble that, we had in our research photographs. I
Yeah.
mean, and when, when you do what I do in this business and you recreate, again, leaning into recreating some of these environments. I mean, there are moments when I've stood on set and there's just been like a flash of where you feel like you're there. I mean, I've been in
Yeah.
the Oval Office with Lyndon Johnson where I felt like I was there for
Mm,
just half a second, but it's something about a moment, the lighting, sometimes it's a smell, and it all combines and you're
mm.
transported, and it's super cool.
Yeah, that's wild. I was recently in DC and it was sort of like we did like a I don't know, we did like a tour of something, but it was just sort of like seeing it in real life. It was like one of the first times I had done something like that. It was just sort of like my mind was racing of all the times that I have seen these rooms or anything like that in whether it's TV, movies, or a documentary or on the news. It was just a strange feeling. Um, I want to talk about Truman's apartment. Dear God, I mean, we are talking about his apartment, but the thing is, I just have like random notes written down here. Like I love the portrait of him. It was sort of like haunting. I was like, is that like Dorian Gray-esque? I don't
Mm,
know. There was
mm.
the red wall. I love the Tiffany lamps, the ceramic cats. I think they're cats. I could be wrong. Ceramic
They
figures.
are. They are.
Um, what I am calling I call it's wrong, but I call it the double fainting couch. Sort of like stretched out
Oh, yeah.
Mickey Mouse ears almost. I love
Yeah.
that.
Victorian.
Um, it's just so I feel like that space out of any other space, I just wanted to spend as much time in there as possible. And it's sort of like I love seeing his apartment when he's trying, getting ready for Thanksgiving versus towards the end of the series where he's struggling to write and his mother is haunting him. And I just feel like the richness of that really sort of like stuck onto me. And I
Mm.
guess I wanted to know that room in particular. What can you tell me about it? Just because it's just so it's alluring to me.
Well, it's one of my favorite sets in the show. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of it really was based on his real apartment in the UN Tower complex, based on photographs, based on walking it, and based on specific items that he had. I mean,
Mm,
everything that you just listed. Um, the portrait is not. In my research, there is a portrait that hangs on that
yeah.
cranberry wall above the chaise with the quilt and
Mm,
all of it. It said that it was a portrait of him. It didn't look like him. It's like I couldn't add it up enough. And at the end of the day, it didn't matter. So I just found a photograph that I liked of him in his youth and gave it to the Scenics, our painters in New York.
mhm,
And one of the brilliant ones recreated that painting, and we had an old frame that we cut down to put it in, and we hung it on the wall. And the scene in episode one where the first time we see the apartment and he lounges on that in this
mhm.
mustard cardigan that matched the colors in.
Okay. I'm not crazy. Okay,
No, but it was not. I hate to say it wasn't by design. I mean, I think it was just his spirit, because I've asked Lou
Mhm.
about that, and she was more looking at the color of the wall
Okay.
than the portrait. I don't even know if she'd even seen the portrait. But the moment when he lays on that sofa, and then it's the brilliance of Tom Hollander, points
Hmm.
at it, and it connects all the dots. You see the life of an entire, a man through his
Hmm.
youth, where he was in that moment, laying on the collection of eccentricities that he has accumulated over this life. And it makes me very happy, that moment,
Yeah.
because it's just the fairy dust that sometimes sprinkles down on us. Um, and it's just the magic of what happens when the cameras start rolling and you get people who are all in sync,
Yeah.
even though a specific conversation hasn't happened. The magic does.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah, there's something about I love when production design really makes me think of like history of who that person is. And I was like even doing some research about how he I might be incorrect here, but he bought that apartment with his earnings from In Cold Blood. And it was sort of I don't know, I kept like pausing the TV and looking, trying to look at all the like little things on the walls or the knickknacks on the tables because it just made me wonder like what in his house, maybe he took one thing from his house growing up and it's like in a specific place. Or I kept thinking of, especially if we go from maybe like Babe's and Bill's apartment to this because he belongs to that world, like maybe what he might like try to emulate in his space that's like this. I don't know, that it just made me very, very curious about a lot of stuff. Um,
Well, I'm glad.
yeah, sorry.
No, it's a particularly it was a very satisfying and gratifying set to do,
Mhm.
and again, the set decoration, Cherish Hale, who was my lead set decorator on the show,
Mhm.
did a brilliant job with her team at finding all of that stuff. And again, layered, we tried to just make it real. I mean, it's in all the photographs, there's a certain sense of, he had a photographer there. He was doing a photo shoot, but yet his spirit came through. But we just tried to keep it layered, as you say, when he's cooking in the kitchen
Mhm.
and it's got all the liquor bottles. And I mean, that
Mhm.
was as much all the accumulation of everything as all the little glass paperweights that he had around. I mean,
Yeah.
you see, my sense was that he just bought everything that he liked, and it all just got thrown together, and it just worked in this brilliant, uh, fantastic way that just said everything about what appealed to him, and and leaned into his own eccentricity. I mean,
Mm.
it was a wonderful set to
Yeah.
recreate.
That was a set I think most that when I was like looking at pictures of it that I had to carefully like read the caption. I was like, is this the real space or is this the one that was recreated? Because there's so much detail in it that I was just it was sort of playing tricks on me. Um
And it goes
when
through layers as well. I mean, in the research, not all of it is the same. I mean, you do
hmm
choices, and we added those sliding doors that separated the rooms. That wasn't in the real place, but that was just something that we enhanced. We did a couple of things that we tweaked it just
yeah.
to lean into the drama of the TV show.
hmm
Things it was really intended for. We knew that when Truman was gonna sort of fall even and further in the later episodes, there was a specific glass that we wanted to just be able to like to diffuse his face and to be able to have him walk through different senses of just blurring him a little bit.
Yeah.
It a layer to just that open, very square room.
Yeah. Okay. So I've been reading a lot, I feel like I've been reading a lot about the design and the costumes and the production design of the show, and I feel like you can't talk about Truman Space without talking about Babe and Bill Space. But something that I kept thinking about, I don't know why I keep thinking about it. Like we spend a good amount of time in that like tobacco colored maroonish the fabric that's on the walls that matches the couch
Yeah.
in their house, which I'm a little bit obsessed with. Like the one of the pictures that I saw of the set, it sort of looked like the way the curtains were drawn, it was sort of like the windows themselves were holding on to a secret and they could close at any moment. And there's something about that deep color, like when you look at the fireplace, there's like there's like flanked by two gold candlesticks, which I think is really cool. But for some reason, I keep thinking about that space um, against when we see like Babe in her bedroom, and it's like these maybe like a little bit of silver, a little bit of gray, white. I think maybe I love the wallpaper in that room. I was thinking of the scene when Diane Lane and Naomi Watts are sitting on the bed looking at the jewelry together. And I guess it's a really cool example of how like a public space is different than a private space.
Hmm.
I guess what did you love about recreating their that space together? And also when I read something like you recreated all the paintings in there, like good God. Like good
Well,
God.
we did have, I mean, you go to there are lists of what the paintings were that were in the Paley collection
Right.
that believe a large, part of them are at the Met now, or at MoMA. And again, with that apartment, I mean, for those that know the Paley apartment, it's an iconic, that taxi color, depending on what
Hmm.
color, what the yellow, I've seen it referred to as taxi yellow. I've butter yellow, it's just, my research said that there were 8 different shades of yellow in that room. I think we did 3. Um, but the campaign tent room, which was this thing that Billy Baldwin did,
Yeah.
they had a prior apartment at the sort of pied a terre at the St. Regis, and he did that in one of the in their salon there, and she loved it so much that she just asked him to recreate it. I mean, there were multiple decorators, Parrish Hadley, they all sort of teamed up and came up with how they were going to redo that apartment. But to my knowledge, that's what Billy did, was that fabric draped room, which
Hmm.
is, again, just fantastic. I mean, it just, as you say, it just feels like there's secrets in that room.
Yeah.
But it was also the perfect bridge in the set between the yellow room and her bedroom. We recreated that fabric in the library, which is what it really was, um, down to the detail. My graphic designer zoomed in on a color photograph of it, so the design of it was recreated. We printed that fabric, so it's
Mhm.
exactly what it was. But when it all came together, again, it leaned into the brown, but there was just a little detail in it that just had this Tiffany blue that was, it was just sort of the introduction to walk into her bedroom, which there was only one image that I had of that in the research, and it was just a watercolor that was done of Bay Paley. So it just had the essence of the color and the
Mhm.
drapery and just a sense of what it was. So we were pretty much given free license to just make
Yeah.
that room and her dressing room. And then what then came in later scripts, we didn't even know what the scripts were going to be. So by the time we got into the death sequences and the sort of, phantasm of them drifting off into the fireworks and the
Mhm.
swan, we just built this version. And again, it's, as you said, it just leaned, and it's exactly what I did, was lean into the drapery
Mhm.
to just create that whole room like it was, the drapery just became everything, so that it was real. It wasn't real, but that it came out of something that we had been seeing throughout the show, but it just became a fantasy, otherworldly version of it, just to create a space. So
Mhm.
it was a great combination of recreating the details of these iconic rooms that people would know, but then to be able to then just do what we wanted to do where it wasn't known, and then just expand on that
Mhm.
as the scripts just got even more fantastical.
Yeah. Okay. I actually unfortunately need to let you go. I feel like I could talk to you about the show for like days because it's
Oh,
just so I don't know. They're sort of like I mean this as like a compliment. I was like the spaces that we enter in this show, it makes me feel like so unbelievably poor. Like I love that about it. It's just so the amount of elegance in here is it was like boggling my mind. Like even just thinking of like CZ's kitchen, just the white, the huge island, the exposed dishes. I just love everything that you've done on the show. The black and white ball. So thank you so much for your time. Sorry to um not cut you short or anything. It's just I just love everything in it, and
thank
that's
you
all.
very much.
That's all. So
Thank
thank
you
you
very
for
much.
letting
I
me
think Bill Paley had that paperclip in his office behind you, so don't.
Oh yeah, okay. Well I can say I'll start lying to people. It's like I got this as a replica of blah blah blah. So that's what I'll
Right.
do now for now. Thank you again for your time. Good luck to you guys this season and have a good rest of your day.
Thanks very much.
Yep,
Nice meeting you.
you too. Bye.
Bye.